sometimes you get in the habit of doing things. Like I get in the habit of saying the name of a particular YouTuber who I won't say it because I know occasionally he probably watches my channels. I don't want to upset him. I just say that. But his name, let's just simply call him E for sure. When he made a video about a naturalistic fallacy, and I know if he watches it now, he knows I'm talking about him. Hi. But the thing is that I was thinking about something. Science is not natural. Science doesn't come to us naturally. Now, I want to make something clear. This is not criticism of science. Science is a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. But, religious thinking comes much more natural to us. To think of things religiously, to think of things... To be superstitious comes much more natural to us. And it really is. And, we look down our nose at superstition. And we look down. And, nowadays there's more this movement of looking down our nose at religion. Especially now with the incident that just recently happened. Let's attack religion some more. Because it makes people do crazy things and all that sort of stuff. Religion isn't all bad and science isn't all good. But let's just sort of go with something. Because I'm thinking about this book that was written. I forget who wrote it. I borrowed it from the library, and I never really got a chance to read it all the way through. But it was something about how science really doesn't come natural to us. But it's a book it's in favor of science. I mean, it's pro-science, so it's not anti-science. But it was just pointing out the fact that religious thinking, to think religiously, to think supernaturally, to think all these sort of ways like that, do come natural to us. It comes far more natural, much more easy. It's more like our common everyday way of thinking. And scientific thinking requires effort. And I always understood that. Science requires effort. And it takes energy. And it takes having to really look at things in a way. You have to kind of do things that, what do they call this? Counterintuitive things. Because there are a lot of things which are true, but, if you thought about it, it wouldn't seem true. Like one thing that was listed in some thing of things that are counterintuitive is the idea of, certain things like the Monty Hall problem, which, some people understand that. I'm not even going to go into explaining the so-called Monty Hall problem. There's a math thing having to do with chances and odds of things happening. And it's related to basically like a scenario bought from the Monty Hall thing for the TV show called Let's Make a Deal. If you remember that thing with you had to pick 3 doors, and and if you picked one door, now I'm going to explain it. Okay, if you picked one door, you say I'm going to pick door number 2. Okay, and Monty Hall would say, okay, now before I show you what's behind door number 2, I'm going to show you what's behind door number 1. And so he shows door number 1. It could be, a bedroom set or whatever. But it's not the grand prize. Now, behind the door that you picked, there could be a goat or a pile of rocks or something. Or it could be the grand prize. Now, he would say, okay, now that I've showed you what was behind door number 1, do you still want to pick door number 2? Now, why would you change it? Because the odds were like, it's 1 in 3. And it's still 1 in 3, right? But according to the Monty Hall problem, it actually would be in your favor to pick another door. The odds actually would be better for you. Even though common sense would tell you, no, it really wouldn't, because it was 33%. It was 33 and a third percent, 33.333% the first time. It's the same thing now. The fact that he showed you what was behind one of the doors doesn't mean that the odds have changed. But in some way they have, because the reality of it, and done when people have tested this, it actually does for some reason. It goes contrary to one's intuitive thinking, but it's the way it is. And there's a lot of people who have explained, the math and how come that's true. And you can look it up if you want to, the Monty Hall problem. There are other things that just seem like common sense. When the spaceship or rocket or whatever they launch these things up in space, and then they come back down into to the Earth's atmosphere. You know, there's all this heat that's produced. What produces the heat? Friction. The thing moving through the air. The friction from the air. Common sense. We all know friction, the air moving at this very rapid speed. But that's actually not what makes the heat. It's kind of a counterintuitive answer to it. It has to do with something, you know, I don't really know how to get into all of the explanations, but it has something to do with the air pressure, with something known as ram pressure. When air is compressed, now I learned this in physics when I was in school too, about air pressure being pushed together and producing heat. Because it really actually, like, if you took all the air in this room, for example, you could actually compress it instantly and put it into something the size of this can. This can would be extremely hot. But the amount of heat, not temperature, difference, temperature and heat, the heat would be the same as what was in this room. It's just concentrated in one spot. Well, the air can't move out of the way fast enough when some object is moving very fast. And it compresses the air in front of it, and you have a lot of heat from that fact. It's, you know, you can look up the thing about ram pressure. You know, there's certain types of jets called ram jets and all that sort of stuff. You know, I'm not going to, this is not a science class, and I'm sure some science professor could explain that a lot better. But there's certain things that just aren't common sense. What our common sense answer would be wrong. Because, let's face it, science requires effort. It requires energy. It's not easy. Scientific thinking isn't easy, and it just doesn't naturally come to us. Whereas religious thinking does. But that doesn't necessarily mean religious thinking is wrong either. It doesn't even mean that superstitious thinking is wrong. Now, I know that some people are going to go with that second part and go even worse on that. Like, oh my God, superstitious thinking is wrong. No. A lot of times we make decisions without thinking about why we're doing it. We may do something out of habit, you know. Like, I was thinking one time, and I only got this from a movie, you know. There's always this thing about, if you pick up a penny, it's good luck. But I remember some movie this guy was saying, if you find a penny and it's face up, that's when it's good luck. You know, my superstition is it's good luck anyway, but it's even more good luck if it's face up. That's not science, but you know, you still think it anyway. It's like, it comes to you naturally, but I know that's BS. I know that's not really the case. But you know, you still think it in some ways. You still, in the back of your mind, there's a part of you that still thinks that there's some truth to these things. I remember when I was a kid, and like with the light post, for example, this is like, maybe it's only unique to when I was a kid and us in our neighborhood, that, you know, if you're walking and if you walk outside of that light pole, like say, for example, here's the light pole, right? I'm painting stuff. And it is obviously. And let's say the sidewalk is on this side and the street side is on this side. And if you walked around on the street side of the lamp pole to walk around it, let's say if there was some obstruction you walked around, that was bad luck. You know, as a kid, we believed that. We thought that was bad luck. Why did we think that? It probably didn't, you know, just, you know, whatever. But maybe it made sense because maybe one day some kid walked outside and walked into the streets a little bit and got hit by a car. That could have happened. You know, sometimes superstitions aren't always bad or crazy. And there's lots of reasons I could explain more further than that, than just, you know, my alarm. Anyway, I'm going to end this video. But the point is that it's just the fact that some ways of thinking are much more natural. And science really isn't natural. It takes effort. But sometimes it's worth the effort.